and welcome to The Fan Show. Today we're talking to a man who's written possibly more Doctor Who than anyone else. He's created 3 incarnations of the Doctor and 6 long-serving companions, and is the only person to have written for every season of the post-2005 show, as well as penning the award-winning 50th anniversary special. Now, lead writer, executive producer and lifelong Doctor Who fan Stephen Moffat is bidding farewell to Doctor Who after 12 years of service. Welcome, Stephen.
Hello.
So let's start by dialing the clock back to before you were showrunner. It's well known that you've been a huge Doctor Who fan since you were a kid, and by 1999 you're an award-winning TV writer, and that's when your first episode of televised Doctor Who comes about, the comic relief sketch The Curse of Fatal Death. How did that come about?
Well, my wife was producing Comic Relief that year, and the first thing that the producer of Comic Relief has to do, because you've got to get lots of people to do things for free, is recruit people. And obviously she was married to a comedy writer. She used Doctor Who, knowing I was a Doctor Who fan and knowing this was possibly the only advantage she'd ever have out of being married to a Doctor Who fan. She used Doctor Who, said, why don't you come and do a Doctor Who for us for free? And I said, well, God, if I can do that, I'll absolutely do it. Well, I thought in what is possibly the least accurate prediction of all time, well, this is be my only chance to write Doctor Who.
Yeah. At the time, 1999, when The Phantom Menace was rebooting the Star Wars franchise for kids, did you feel there was a potential for Doctor Who to come back?
Well, there definitely was. There never was a point when Doctor Who couldn't have come back. It was kind of an outrage what happened, that they managed to keep it off for so many years, when so many people wanted it back. It was doing pretty well in the ratings. It was doing very, very well critically. And anybody who knows their Doctor Who for real knows that Sylvester McCoy was terrific and Sophie Aldred was terrific, and they were actually making some really good shows. There was no reason for it to go off. When we did it on Comic Relief, I think the ratings went up to 10 million every time Doctor Who was on. In any other real-world situation, it would have come back the following year. So
fast forward to November 2003, it's announced that Doctor Who would be returning with Russell T Davies as showrunner. How did you find out?
I think Sue told me at some point, it's all going to be about Sue, this. She said, I think they're giving Doctor Who to Russell. I didn't particularly react to that because I'd known he'd been sort of vaguely around the place with it for a while. And then I was in America, I was in New York, attending a DVD launch of Coupling. I somehow logged onto the internet. It was difficult in those days. You actually had to put a balloon up and light a small candle. It was, and I saw that Russell was bringing it back, and I thought, oh my God, it's actually going to happen. I didn't doubt that it would be good. I didn't doubt that for a second, because I knew Russell. I knew Russell slightly. I knew Russell's writing. They were giving the show to a premier dramatist who was also a Doctor Who fan. I just thought, that's going to work. That's definitely going to work. It's not going to be somebody who doesn't really get it, trampling all over it. It's going to be someone who loves it, who really knows what they're doing at a level that Doctor Who hadn't had before. And of course, I wanted to get an episode. Of course I did.
Well, you got 6 episodes. How did you two meet?
We met years and years and years ago. I remember the very first time I ever read his name anywhere. I was staying with the producer of Press Gang in those glamorous days. I just slept on the sofa downstairs. I remember that. That was my television life. And as I woke up, I saw there was a whole scattering of correspondence, of secret correspondence, of private and intimate correspondence spread on the coffee table. So naturally, I read it. And one of the letters was Russell writing in, looking for work, basically. And I remember just thinking, who's that? What do you need him for? I'm not a writer around here, for God's sake. I'm here, I've got the sofa, there isn't another sofa. You can't have him. And then I think I met him in Sandy's office. Sandy Hasty, the producer of Press Gang. And I mean, not in any sort of vastly important way. I think I was just prattling around the place. And he was in pitching a show.
How did you know about your love for Doctor Who, and how did he bring you on board?
We met many times after that, not many, several times. He wrote a Doctor Who novel, which is very good, Damaged Goods. So I knew, therefore, he was a Doctor Who fan. Loads of people were Doctor Who fans. I mean, we sort of enshrined this myth that no one was a Doctor Who fan during those years. There were loads of Doctor Who fans. Almost anybody vaguely arty was a Doctor Who fan at some level. He was a very, very major one, and I heard that he actually purchased his own Dalek, which later appears in Asylum of the Daleks and nearly kills Matt Smith. We would occasionally bump into each other at things. I think he sent me a nice email about Curse of Fatal Death. There was all that going on. because I wanted at least to be in the frame, I emailed Russell. I got Russell's email from Paul Cornell, and emailed him and said, "Look, I didn't do anything as egregious as ask, although that's what every atom of my being was wanting to do. I just said, look, congratulations, and from the heart, you are the perfect choice," which I did believe. I did think this was a huge statement of intent and integrity from the BBC that they were getting Russell, and he responded almost immediately with, "Well, look, I'm down for 6. But if there are more than 6, I'll be approaching you."
Wow.
So I thought, wow, that's great. But I also wondered if it was just polite.
But then, of course, you wrote The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances.
Yes. I mean, I was just over the moon, just properly over the moon. I couldn't wait to do it. I was so excited. And I was away with my brother-in-law, staying at a house he was doing up in France. And I was sitting down to write my first scene. And that's when you get the cold wave, because I suddenly thought, the thought that had not up until that point occurred to me was I'd never written anything remotely like this before in my life. I had not done that. And I'd read Russell's first few scripts. They were superlative. I hadn't read scripts as good as that, ever, really. They were just at a different level. So I was already feeling pretty, you're not going to be the prettiest girl in the room today. This is better than I can do anyway. On my best day, this is better than I can write. So I was already thinking that, and I sat down and I thought, I write sitcoms. I've been writing sitcoms for 10 years. I have no idea how to do this. So I had absolute terror, and soldiering through absolute terror, which Russell assures me he did not experience at all. He just got the hell on with it. I was just saying, what do you do? What is a scene if it doesn't have jokes in it? And in fact, if you look at The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances, which I think are very good episodes, I'm very pleased with them, but my sitcom twitch, which is evident to this day, is all over the place. For all that it's a scary, dramatic, serious Doctor Who, it is gag after gag after gag. It is the work of a comedy writer turning his hand notionally to horror, to child-friendly horror. I remember sending my first script in appallingly late. Something I never ever remedied throughout my time in Doctor Who. I sent my script in so dreadfully late. Within about an hour, I got an email from Russell, which was the most incandescently gorgeous email about the script. And then several more from him about how much he loved it.
Wow.
And I was absolutely over the moon. I was so excited.
It wasn't until I watched those 2 episodes as an adult that I realised how sexually charged some of those scenes are. Where Rose asked the Doctor if he'd dance with her. For me, that whole scene completely changes the Doctor from being an asexual, weird uncle to a romantically available hero for both men and women. Do you think this was necessary for Doctor Who to succeed in the 21st century?
No, I don't think it's necessary. I think it was already there. I think it is very naive to look at old Doctor Who and think it's not there. Television has moved on. We talk about those things, but we don't necessarily change it. Now what's different is, in the old show, we just assume the Doctor has no interest in anyone around him. That remains true. The only thing that changes is that, I think it's in School Reunion, Rose challenges him on it and says, what is it? What's going on here? As you really would if you were hanging out with a good-looking young fella. At some point you might say, what are you thinking? And he actually says it. It's the only time it's definitively said in Doctor Who.
I don't age. I regenerate. But humans decay. You wither and you die. Imagine watching that happen to someone that you...
There were plenty of people watching classic Doctor Who who thought the Doctor was a bit of all right. I mean, that's absolutely true. You think Peter Davison went completely unnoticed.
The most critically acclaimed episode you wrote during this period is Blink. I think it's fair to say the Weeping Angels have become truly iconic. They've been absorbed into the public consciousness along with the Daleks and the TARDIS. How does it feel to have left an indelible mark like that on Doctor Who history?
I love that. I love that the Weeping Angels are so important, and that they've probably snuck in at number 3 in terms of Doctor Who monsters. I think to make a genuinely great Doctor Who monster is very difficult, and we know that because we've made so many monsters in Doctor Who. How many monsters have there been in Doctor Who? How many of them are up on the top shelf? Hardly any. And I think Weeping Angels can't really compete with Cybermen and Daleks, but they're out there. They're out there. They're on a sort of mini shelf just below. I'm really I'm hugely proud of that.
Yeah,
Genuinely.
you should be. They are genius.
I've got one
They
in
are-
my garden, right at the end of my garden, standing
It's
there.
terrifying.
It's not really,
It's
because
terrifying.
I just made them up, so I know it's not.
That's
not
true.
invented.
Actually, one of the reasons why they're so genius is the end of Blink suggests that all statues are weeping angels. Other normal things you've made scary include shadows, cracks on walls, ticking clocks, snowmen, things hiding under the bed, things in the corners of your eye. For a show that you've consistently maintained is a children's show, you've certainly taken it to some scary places. How do you strike a balance?
Well, first of all, that kind of fear, that kind of horror, is of the nursery. It's the horrors of childhood. It's not the horrors of adulthood. I mean, I'm frightened of going to the dentist and of my GP clearing his throat suddenly. These are the things that terrify me. Not monsters. I'm not scared of the dark. I'm not scared of shadows. I'm fine with all those things now. But when you talk about Doctor Who, it is from the angle of the nursery. It is what scared you as a child, and the way in which a child populates the ordinary world around them with not just with horrors, but with wonder and excitement. They see old people as wise and fascinating. They see cracks in the walls as portals to other worlds. They see statues as people coming to get them. They see magic and mystery and horror and joy everywhere, which in a way is how the Doctor looks at the universe, but is also the key to writing the show, because Doctor Who, properly, doesn't take place in outer space like Star Trek and Star Wars. It takes place under your bed, the back of your whole cupboard, at your school, in the forest you have to walk through on the way home. That's where Doctor Who lives.
Yeah. So your second story for Russell is Girl in the Fireplace. And it was the first time you wrote about doomed love, which is something that you return to a lot later with River Song. What is it about love that is doomed, unrequited or frustrated due to obstacles like time that is so appealing to you?
I do love a twisted love story. I don't know why.
You do, yeah.
There is something about falling in love with somebody, when you really fall in love with them, that is the first time in a moment of sometimes terrifying, sometimes enlightening realization that you actually now know who you are. You know where you fit. You think, oh, I'm the person who loves that person. That means I fit here. I think to write a character who never falls in love would mean you'd be writing a character who doesn't ever get who they are, who doesn't ever see themselves reflected and forgiven in the eyes of another person. I think if you do not write that, you have not understood them, because I don't think you understand yourself until that point. As I say, most love stories end, and most love stories end before you do. So, we've all got a back catalogue of heartbreak and joy, haven't we? And we've all defined ourselves and learned about ourselves in those moments. So to write a character who does not have that moment, however, you can have a love story like he sort of falls in love with Rose in his Doctor way, but he stands away from her because he knows he can't.
Yeah.
And he explains why he can't. And then he has the grotesque, sadistic humiliation of having to watch his human clone go away with her. You think, God, I mean, I'm not even the hero of my own love story. How did that happen?
Yeah,
Then you have Madame de Pompadour in The Girl in the Fireplace is the fling at the party. Is that momentary thing that could have been so much more, you think, but wasn't. So it's the love that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I think we should talk about River, played by the marvellous Alex Kingston, who you introduced in your fourth and final contribution before you took over as showrunner. Did you have a plan for her when you wrote Silence in the Library?
Certainly not. I'd read The Time Traveller's Wife, and when I wrote Girl in the Fireplace, I remember I specifically said to Russell, we should do something of the mood and tone of The Time Traveller's Wife. So I was specifically doing it there. I wasn't, except obviously very, very subconsciously, right at the top of my subconscious, doing that with River, except it turned out much closer, of course. River came from from two things. One, I needed the Doctor and Donna in the library, and I needed some archaeologists to come in and meet them, and them all join forces. But I didn't want to do that bit where the Doctor is locked up because the first thing you do if you met the Doctor is lock him up, and that's what they do in the classic series, lock him up for an episode. I didn't want to do that. We had the psychic paper specifically, invented brilliantly by Russell, specifically to get him out of that. But I thought there is no piece of psychic paper that says it's okay that I've been in a this library that's been sealed for 100 years. There's no piece of paper that says that. So I thought, what if he knows one of the archaeologists? Mm-hmm. I thought, oh God, that is so lame. That is such a coincidence. Oh, Jeff, how are you, mate? Here you are. I thought, oh, hang on, it could be someone he hasn't met yet, and that could be a bit confusing. What if it's a kind of sexy woman who's just suddenly treating him as if she's married? I thought, oh, and that of course takes over the story the moment you do that.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course, everything else is subordinate to River. The other place it came from may not be a story you want for here, but Russell and I went through a phase of trying to work out Doctor Who titles with rude acronyms to wind up people on internet message boards. I thought I just shot back with a River song ending. Work it out, and he said, "What's a River song?" And I said, "Oh, I'll just call somebody River song." And she better die, and that way we've got the acronym.
That's brilliant.
And then we didn't use the title. And I remember sitting on the train with Julie and Russell saying, well, originally I called this episode a River Song Ending, and Julie saying, oh, I think that's quite good, and saying, we can't actually use that. I don't think to this day Julie understood what Russell and I were saying, that we can't actually, let's just can't do it.
Looking back at your time on the show, I think it's fair to say that you're rather fond of a powerful and mysterious woman. Why do you have a fondness for writing characters like Missy, River Song, Kavarian and Madame Vastra?
What a strange selection. I don't know if I'm not sure that I particularly do. First of all, if you're going to have someone go toe-to-toe with the Doctor, they better be able to match him at every level. So a certain quality of power and enigma is good because he's like that. So, that, I suppose. And, I don't know. I don't know that I have a particular... there's also loads of female characters who are not the least bit like that. So, powerful and mysterious women, powerful and mysterious men, just powerful and mysterious. If you say someone comes in and is powerful and mysterious, you think, okay, that's interesting. If you say someone comes in and is accessible and affable, you say, it's a sitcom then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not. I don't know that I've got a particular fetish for that.
So Russell decides to step down during the production of Series 4 and offered you the job via email around the time of writing Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. What did it mean to you as a lifelong Doctor Who fan?
Oh, it was thrilling. It was thrilling. If I'm honest, I thought it was probably circling. I used to lie about this all the time, but I knew that Russell was going to leave, and I knew from quite a time before he was leaving, I knew he was going to do four series. But I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to think about Russell leaving. I was really happy. I was really happy doing a Doctor Who every year, doing my other stuff, coming back to Doctor Who. I was really incredibly happy with that period of my life. It was a golden period. I was excited by it. I loved it. Didn't want it to end. I remember saying to Russell, and meaning it, so look, if me doing more episodes would make it easier for you to stay, I'll do more episodes. And he said, maybe he was lying, of course, but he said, it would actually make it a lot easier, but I am going. Maybe he just thought, more episodes from Moffat, I'm out of here. But I like to think he was telling the truth. So I wasn't anxious for this time to come at all. I was actually dreaded slightly him leaving. And then people started talking to me in cryptic terms, which I ignored. Because I was so loving that time of my life and my connection with the show that I think I must have been blocking it out. I remember Jane Tranter saying to me at the Voyage of the Damned read-through, we must get together and discuss the next 5 years. And I didn't get it. I said to Sue, God, that's really keen on me at the BBC. Got a 5-year plan for me at the BBC. That's amazing. God, I'm well in there. And Sue's saying, they're talking about Doctor Who. And I said, no, they're not talking about Doctor Who. And then Julie sat with me in LA explaining, well, we're going to leave. We're going to do these specials and then we'll be gone. I was saying, I was so hungover, I think, at the time. I didn't really understand that she was sitting there patiently explaining. And then I got the extraordinary email. I was on a plane to Greece to discuss the Greek version of Coupling. No, really, the Greek version of Coupling. Sue and I would just sell the rights to Coupling anywhere we felt like going. We would get a free trip. We say, no, you don't pay us very much, but we want a free trip in a nice hotel and some restaurant recommendations. Then you can make your version of Coupling. So we're flying out there. And I got the email and I passed it to Sue and she said, and she went, I knew it. I knew they were going to offer you that job. And I said, at least I've got my health.
And then in October 2007, you were announced to be writing the screenplays for Steven Spielberg's Tintin. Then May 2008, you were announced as Russell's successor to Doctor Who. Then August 2008, it was announced that you and Mark Gatiss would be making a modern-day version of Sherlock Holmes. Plus, you've got 2 children at the time of under 10. Was this the most complicated year of your life?
God, yes. It's about 10 years ago now, as you've just worked out, as you can tell from those numbers. That's
Done
10
my
years
research.
ago. Hey. Yes. I remember just being very, very excited. I remember realising there was no way on earth this worked. I remember that, though I haven't talked about it much, there was another show also in the mix called Adam and Eve, which had been greenlit. And Sue had done a wall planner of what it meant to write all 3 series. And I said, I can't. That's not possible. I can't do all 3 of those. One of them has to go, because they would none of them were capable of me saying, you lot go and do that. I had to be fully involved in a show-running way with all 3 of them. So I said, I can't do that. At maximum speed at the BBC, Mark and I had gone in, pitched Sherlock with the words, Sherlock Holmes in the modern day, and we had a whole other pitch for it. And they said, yeah, go and do that. I said, can we do a pitch anyway, because it's awesome. So we did. And during the pitch, it came out that I was taking over Doctor Who, which Mark didn't know until that point. So we said, oh, wow, congratulations. And as we went out to the lift, he said, well, that's brilliant. I'm delighted you're doing Doctor Who. And they said, and Sherlock, and I'm doing several things on it. And I said, yeah. I suppose we can rest when we retire.
That's all we've got time for part 1. We'll be back next week with some of this.
I was so insanely busy, I didn't have time to leave.
You'll be able to see that here, and to catch up on the Christmas after show, click here. And of course, to subscribe to the official Doctor Who YouTube channel, click here. We'll see you next week. Bye!